Have you ever noticed that no matter how honest and dedicated you are, success always seems to be reserved for others? It's not bad luck, it's by design. The system applauds honesty while, behind the scenes, it crafts rules to ensure that the most upright people remain exactly where they are. The great betrayal isn't in the small deviations, but in the empty promise that effort and integrity are enough to succeed. On the contrary, the more honest you are, the more predictable you become, and the more easily exploited. The system doesn't want workers who think, only those who obey. If you have the courage to go on, prepare yourself to face an uncomfortable truth. Perhaps, in this society, honesty is not a path to success, but a subtle trap, designed to keep you exactly where you are. There is an old promise, repeated like an almost sacred mantra in schools, companies, churches, family gatherings, and motivational speeches passed down from generation to generation. Whoever works hard, does the right thing, respects the rules, will one day be rewarded. On paper, this phrase is beautiful. It sounds fair, honourable, noble. It carries the weight of centuries of tradition and hope. Behind it lies a deep desire to believe that, at its core, the universe is a balanced place where effort and integrity naturally turn into reward. But there is something perverse hidden in its simplicity, a dark detail that almost no one dares to say out loud. Because if you truly believe in this, if you build your life on this foundation, you will often find yourself led to the edge of disappointment. It is painful to realize, but in today's world, being honest is no guarantee of success. More often, it is the fastest path to failure. If the system had the courage to abandon its masks and ready-made phrases, it would be forced to confess, we don't value virtue, we value utility. We don't reward ethics, we reward results, even if they're questionable. We don't compensate hard work. We reward those who adapt to the hidden, flexible rules of the game. We don't care about righteousness. We care about those who know how to survive in the jungle, no matter the method. And these rules were not written to protect those who do what is right. They were crafted over decades and centuries to favor those who realized the game is dirty and decided to play without scruples. Pause to observe your surroundings. Look at the corridors of any large company, the backstage of politics, the small circles of conversation at school, the dynamics of families. How many times have you witnessed or experienced firsthand the scene where someone works seriously, with dedication and integrity, delivering more than what's required, being precise in the details, and yet is overtaken by those who played the game of appearances, knew how to manipulate hierarchies, used influence, or simply lied better? Remember the tired faces you see on the bus before dawn, people who wake up early, face traffic, never miss a day, deliver flawless results, and yet rarely receive recognition. Think of the teachers who dedicate extra hours, the employees who avoid gossip, the colleagues who help without expecting anything in return, those who truly give of themselves. How many of them have you seen get promoted? And how many were left behind, while others, with half the competence but triple the political skill, were lifted into prominent positions? Have you noticed how, so often, the system not only allows this kind of distortion, but actually encourages it? Structures are created where those who play fair feel out of place, where the real rule is ambiguity, where cleverness is rewarded and integrity is punished. Why is it easier to manage people who adapt to the dirty game than those who insist on changing the rules? Why is it more practical to keep at the top those who understand that the official rules are only to be shown to the weak, while the strong follow their own laws? Those who choose the straight path usually find themselves alone. They stand there in the midst of the crowd, but in silence. They work more, receive less. Watch as colleagues are promoted not for their talent, but for their proximity to power. Sometimes the price of integrity is isolation. Silent respect, but forgetfulness when it's time to make decisions. And little by little, honor stops being seen as a virtue and starts being seen as a cost, a manufacturing defect in a system that rewards those who know how to smile at the right moments and look away at the decisive hours. Pause for a moment in reality. The modern system, be it educational, corporate, institutional, political, or even religious, was rarely designed to elevate the honest. It was architected to test obedience, to select those who best adapt, to keep the machinery running smoothly for the benefit of those at the top. In practice, those who rise the most, those who go the furthest, are not always the best or the most just, but rather the most flexible in the face of what matters to the game's owners. Adaptability in this context becomes synonymous with convenience, not competence. And it all starts very early. In school, the child who questions is seen as a problem. The one who obeys blindly is held up as a model to be followed. Those who create, challenge, innovate are often pruned in the name of discipline and respect for authority. Creativity, critical thinking, the boldness to propose new solutions are rarely rewarded. In the first job, the scenario repeats itself. One discovers that, often, those who stay late are praised, even if they don't produce more. Visibility is worth more than substance. Overtime becomes a badge of dedication, regardless of the results delivered. Many quickly learn the golden rule. It's better to be in the right place, at the right time, next to the right people, than to work hard in anonymity. In companies, so-called meritocracy is almost always a myth. Promotions are usually given to those who know how to behave, to those who accept everything without question, to those who understand the manager's preferences and learn never to contradict them. Gradually, loyalty to the system outweighs the value of real merit. And you, today, may find yourself in this cycle, repeating patterns. You meet deadlines, follow the rules, offer help, avoid conflicts, and wait for recognition to come. And when it doesn't, you ask yourself, why does nothing ever change? Why am I ignored even when I do everything right? Why does it always feel like something is missing, even when I give my best? The system doesn't ignore you by accident. It ignores you because it needs a solid base to keep a few at the top. It needs people to carry the weight, to produce without questioning, to keep the machine running while others make the rules. Recognition is a scarce currency, distributed with surgical precision, almost always far from those who truly deserve it. If everyone had the chance to rise, the whole structure would collapse. Someone has to occupy the lower floor, and almost always that someone is the one who refuses to negotiate their own principles. One of the greatest lies the system tells, and repeats until it becomes truth, is this: if you're good at what you do, you'll be recognized. The phrase is seductive. It fuels entire generations. But in practice, it's a mirage. Recognition, most of the time, isn't for the best, but for the most convenient. For those who fit in. For those who don't challenge. For those who understand the zones of power and learn to dodge risks. For those who bow their heads when necessary, turn a blind eye when told to, and never expose others' weaknesses, even if it costs them their own values. Those who insist on being honest, on telling the truth, on denouncing abuses, on defending what they believe in, pay a high price. They lose promotions, opportunities, friends, jobs, sometimes even reputations. They become problematic, radical, difficult to deal with, not flexible enough. Meanwhile, the system keeps running, indifferent. It only needs functioning bodies, tamed minds, resigned souls. Workers who know their place and don't aspire to more than they're allowed. People who have grown used to the idea that security is now a synonym for silence. There's an even more perverse detail rarely noticed: the small, almost invisible daily betrayals that gradually corrode the soul of those trying to keep their values intact. They are tiny, almost trivial decisions. Accepting an injustice to avoid conflict. Ignoring a lie in a report because it's just this once. Laughing at an inappropriate joke to be accepted. Pretending not to see a minor fraud because nobody's perfect. failing to support a colleague who's being treated unfairly, just to avoid trouble. Each concession seems harmless, but it leaves a scratch on your integrity. And, little by little, what once was unacceptable becomes normal. The courage to stand up fades, and the sense of belonging comes at a high price. Time passes until one day a person looks in the mirror and no longer recognizes who they've become. The system is grateful. It's much easier to deal with people who have adapted than with those who insist on questioning. Consider the generational effect of this system as well. Those who give in to the dirty game end up teaching, often unintentionally, that the path of honesty isn't worth it. How many children grow up hearing their parents say, "Do the right thing," but learn by example that those who win are the ones who know how to be flexible with the truth? How many companies celebrate ethics on their bulletin boards but only reward those who deliver results, no matter how? The message is passed down from generation to generation. Don't be naive. Don't put too much faith in justice. Learn to survive, even if it means betraying a bit of yourself each day. Now, take a deep breath and really think. How many times have you done the right thing and paid the price for it? How many doors closed because you refused to be an accomplice to injustice? How many opportunities did you lose because you wouldn't flatter, wouldn't stay silent, wouldn't turn your back on your own conscience? Are you building your own life, or just upholding a structure that will never truly recognize you? How long will you measure your worth by the eyes of others? How long will you accept the logic that being useful is more important than being right? The first step to breaking free from this cycle is to realize that the system does not exist to reward virtue. It only rewards convenient loyalty. Only after accepting this truth can you begin to question everything. What is truly worth it? Who am I giving my energy, my dreams, my youth to? What is the real price of my peace of mind? Freedom is not born from the approval of others. It comes from purpose. It comes from deciding where to invest your energy. It comes from setting boundaries, from saying no when everything around you says yes. True success, perhaps, only begins to exist when you ask yourself a question that no one else can answer. What is my own worth? Not the one imposed by others, not the one written on your paycheck or badge, but the value that only you can determine by standing up for what you believe, even when the cost is high. Perhaps, in an honest answer to that question, lies the beginning of a more meaningful life, even if, for that, you need the courage to unlearn everything you've been taught about success. And never forget, that answer, my friend, only you can give. And maybe, within it, lies the key to a freedom that the system can never take from you.